their legal opinion and is unenforceable. And at the end of it, it's very clear. If you scroll down to the very end, it says that, I think it's on another slide.
No, it's over to the left.
It's over to the
I'm
left.
talking about the,
There it goes. The statement of principles does not establish any binding legal requirements. So they issued this big long statement, and then at the end said, this statement of principles does not establish any binding legal requirements. It's because they know that it's unenforceable. They're defunded from enforcing any action against anybody operating in the hemp industry, so long as you're growing your hemp according to section 7006 of the Farm Bill. So a couple of things that they did in this statement of principles. There was a couple of positives. The first thing that they did is they acknowledged interstate commerce. The statement of principles says that industrial hemp products may be sold as part of marketing research in states with pilot programs, but may not be sold in states where it is prohibited. Right? So they acknowledge interstate commerce, but they also acknowledge that it cannot be sold in states where it is prohibited. So how do I understand that? I understand that even if a state doesn't have a farm bill, as long as a state doesn't have a law against hemp extracts, you can sell your products in those states. Right now, the only state that has a law against hemp extracts is Missouri. Missouri, they have a low THC cannabis bill similar to Texas, but theirs specifically says derived from industrial hemp. So the Attorney General in Missouri sued about 64 stores a couple of weeks ago that were selling CBD products. And the interesting thing was they came after them civilly and not criminally. They were not indicted criminally, they were not raided, there was no charges pressed. They simply got letters saying that if they didn't cease and desist their operations, they would be facing a fine for selling hemp extracts without the proper licensing. So that's pretty
Carlos,
interesting.
let me just ask, how many of you had admin law? Okay, some of you, but all of you had leg rag, right? So this is, so you know the force and effect of agency statements that are issued without notice and comment. Did you guys cover that? Okay, so that's what this is. This is their opinion, but it's not a regulation.
But I was gonna say, that doesn't prevent a judge when you're before from.
It does actually.
Right.
The Appropriations Act covers that, and I'm going to cover that
okay.
next. So this is already held up in court. Not this particular case, but the Ninth District Court a couple of weeks ago ruled in favor of the Rohrabacher Amendment when trying to indict medical marijuana dispensaries out of California. And the Rohrabacher Amendment also protects the hemp industry. So although that wouldn't stop, in theory, the DEA could raid somebody, right, press charges, and in a court of law, this individual cannot be prosecuted because federal funds are prohibited from being used in interference or prosecution of anybody operating in the hemp industry, so long as the products are grown in accordance with the Farm Bill.
So essentially, the whole case would be thrown out, it wouldn't even be presented before a
In
judge.
theory.
In theory.
Right, in
Because my
theory.
whole thing is like, if you're in the courtroom, there's a judge presiding over your case,
Right.
he can be influenced by
Exactly.
any of these.
Exactly. Right, and then you can have case law, right? Then you can have bad case law based on his bad interpretation of the law or the statement of principles. And honestly, it's my opinion, that's what the DEA was trying to do. Because they posted this, they filed this in the Federal Register. So, and Bob Hogan, which is gonna talk later, so the state of Colorado, there's a lot of interesting things going on in regards to hemp cultivation and CBD extraction. And the Colorado Public Department of Health had a meeting with the DEA, and the DEA told them that they don't need federal funds to prosecute individuals or go after individuals because they can use their asset forfeiture funds. So which that's kind of scary, right? They have all this money from asset forfeiture. They're saying we don't need to use federal funds to pay for our agents to raid you, seize your property, but who's going to pay for the federal prosecutors? Who's going to pay for the federal judge that's going to preside over that court? Who pays for the building right? Those are all federal funds. So in theory, they could if they really wanted to, but it's my opinion that that's Pandora's box that they don't want to open. Because the Hemp Industry Association already sued the DEA once in 2004 and won that case. So it's my opinion, they don't want to go to war with the Hemp Industry Association. because they've already lost that case once. And they're gonna spend a ton of time and resources on cases that they're not even gonna be able to. You know, the federal government doesn't like indicting people that they don't know is gonna spend 5 or 10 years in prison, you know? They'll watch you for 2 or 3 years and let you dig your own grave, and once they know that you're gonna go to prison, that's when they'll formally indict you. So also, another thing that was kind of troubling here, the term industrial hemp. They tried to redefine the term industrial hemp. Here it says the term industrial hemp includes the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part or derivative of such plant, including seeds of such plant, whether growing or not, that is used exclusively for industrial purposes, fiber and seed, with a tetrahydrocannabinol concentration of no more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. The term tetrahydrocannabinols includes all isomers, acids, salts, and salts of isomers of tetrahydrocannabinol. So it is my opinion that the DEA does not have congressional authority to redefine a term in a bill. That would take an act of Congress. And this actually held up in 2004 when the Hemp Industry Association went to court with the DEA. The DEA was trying to regulate THC in non-marijuana products. And the federal government came back and said that the DEA does not have congressional authority to redefine the Controlled Substance Act. Only Congress can do that. So that was a case where HIA, that was a really big case for HIA when they won that case in 2004. So this is kind of troubling for some people, and it's scared a lot of people in the industry. But as long as you're operating in accordance with the Farm Bill, it's our opinion that, it's still kind of a gray area, but you have federal laws that are protecting you. And the big one is the Appropriations Act, the Rohrabacher Amendment. So let me find the Rohrabacher Amendment. Here it is right here. This is a Rohrabacher Amendment. This is the Omnibus Spending Bill of 2015, Section 763. None of the funds made available by this act or any other act may be used in contravention of Section 7606 of the Agriculture Act of 2014. Or, this is big right here, to prohibit the transportation, processing, sale, or use of industrial hemp that is grown or cultivated in accordance with subsection Section 7606 of the Agriculture Act, and this is huge, within or outside of the state in which industrial hemp is grown or cultivated. So, this is what I was talking about. They're defunded. They can't use any federal funds to go after individuals that are operating, growing their hemp in accordance with the Farm Bill. So what do you have to do to be growing your hemp in accordance with the Farm Bill? It has to be grown either through an institution of higher learning or through an agricultural pilot program, and must be grown for purposes of academic research. As long as you're doing those things, it is our opinion and the opinion of the industry that this right here is kind of our savior. Whether or not they personally agree with it, whatever their opinion may be, this is federal law. So, and this held up. Not the Rohrabacher Amendment also talks about medical marijuana, and this is the case that happened maybe 2 months ago, where this decision actually held up in the Ninth Circuit Court. So that's a pretty big deal. So this is a little bit about the pilot programs in Washington. Some of this is really Washington based because it's a CLE for the state of Washington. So cannabis comparisons. What is the difference between hemp and what is the difference between marijuana? Hemp has traditionally been grown for fiber and seed production. Marijuana is a drug cultivar grown for the resin of the plant. Now, there's a lot. This is all prior 2014 Farm Bill, right? Post 2014 Farm Bill, there's a lot of bleeding over because what happened is you have a lot of growers that got really smart and said, okay, federal government, you're going to define hemp as 0.3% THC or less. We're going to breed our medical marijuana genetics to industrial hemp genetics and create a new hybrid of cannabis that is a drug cultivar, but that has less than 0.3% THC. So it's a high resin plant, but if you're looking at the Farm Bill, it fits within the definition of what industrial hemp is. So prior to 2014, this was industrial hemp. Post 2014, this is industrial hemp. Now you have some people that are growing hemp for fiber and seed in this country. So they're growing more of what we know as the feral hemp varieties, low resin, non-intoxicating, tall, lanky plants, machine harvested for fiber and seed. Now, you have people that are growing a lot of hemp for resin and for cannabis production, which, if you look at those plants, you'll think that's marijuana, but it's not marijuana. Not if you're going by the federal government's definition of what marijuana is. And the DEA doesn't like this, obviously. They're kind of upset about this.
Carlos, quick question.
Uh-huh.
When it's growing in the field, is there any way to tell a low THC marijuana plant from a high THC marijuana plant? Can you just look at it?
Not at all, not at all. And that's the DEA's concern, right? Is people are gonna be hiding drug cultivars within their industrial hemp fields. But the departments of agriculture, Colorado's Department of Agriculture comes out 3 times a year and randomly tests the crop. They will test,
They do like the X thing, right?
they test random. So they'll pick, you have 120 acres, they'll pick a plant from here, they'll pick a plant 100 acres over here, then they'll randomly pick a plant somewhere in the middle. Yes?
Oh, well, I'll let you finish, I'm sorry.
Okay, then they randomly pick a plant somewhere in the middle and they test your crop. If at any time you test over 0.3% THC, the crop must be destroyed. You know, but
0.3?
0.3% THC. Yeah, if it's, as long as it tests, so if I misspoke, I apologize. As long as it does not test above 0.3% THC, then you're fine. If it tests above, then the crop has to be destroyed on site. It cannot be sold.
I mean, I can't imagine that controlling the THC contents as easy as we're only gonna get this much, from this certain type of plant. What's the likelihood of you just have some higher THC?
Well, what it is you have to breed. What it is it's plant breeding. It's selective. I mean, you can almost call them genetically modified strains. Through selective breeding, you breed an industrial hemp plant that has 0.000% THC, 0.001% THC, with a marijuana plant that has 18% CBD and 5% THC. You breed those 2 plants, you sprout 1,000 seeds, and you look for the phenotypes that have less than 0.3% THC. You then keep those phenotypes, keep cloning them, and grow all of your crops from clone. And now you have every crop an identical representation of the mother, right?
And I'm sorry, so what you guys are doing is making like the CBD oils and
Yeah.
stuff? Okay.
Yeah, we're extracting the resin of the plant, and we're gonna get into the plant resins next. So, the Controlled Substance Act of 1970. This is super interesting. The term marijuana, this is how the federal government defines marijuana. It means all parts of the plant Cannabis sativa L, whether growing or not, the seeds thereof, the resin extracted from any part of such plant, and every compound, manufacture, salt, derivative, mixture, or preparation of such plant, its seeds or its resin. Such term does not include the mature stalks of such plant, fiber produced from such stalks, oil or cake made from the seeds of such plant, and any other compound, manufacture, salt, derivative, mixture, or preparation of the mature stalks, except the resin extracted therefrom, fiber, oil, or cake of the sterilized seed of such plant which is incapable of germination. So, prior to 2014, there were still hemp products everywhere in this country. You know, those hemp products were imported, and they were made from stock and seed. So it's not marijuana per the Controlled Substance Act, right? Post 2014, now we have a definition of what industrial hemp is. And post 2014, it legalizes what? Any part of such plant, right? So it's our opinion that even though our oil is plant resin, it's industrial hemp as per the Farm Bill, because the Farm Bill now legalized all parts of that plant. That's where the gray area was. CBD or any cannabinoid is a controlled substance per the Controlled Substance Act because it is resin extracted from the plant. Now, how do you get away with selling the controlled substance? Well, if you're operating in accordance to the Farm Bill, the federal government cannot come after you because of the Rohrabacher Amendment. So you're essentially legally selling the controlled substance. You know, so it's definitely a big gray area. This is what. So there's 2 types of CBD oil. You have domestically grown, and you have imported. Companies that import their oil are hiding behind this right here. They say they extract their oil from stock and seeds. Okay, but they're lying. So companies that import their oil, it is my opinion, that's highly illegal what they're doing, because they're mislabeling their product and they're selling resin. Very clearly, there's an exception to the exception. yeah, mature stocks and seeds are not marijuana,